Good evening, I'm Julie Chen.
Wake up, everybody!
But first,
I cannot. On my daughter's birthday. Disgusting. Anybody want cake?
I want to welcome you guys all to my big brother funeral.
Can't find an individual to hate, because I hate you all.
Welcome to Not Game, All Personal Hate. We are a Big Brother podcast here talking about all things Big Brother, more specifically the events of this past week. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. Tony, we have our final three. We did it. We made it. How we feeling?
Woo. Feeling good, feeling great. I feel like it's got to be one of the two people that we thought were deserving the last few weeks, and so that feels good. I don't know.
It feels good to be right, or does it feel good that it's them?
It feels good that it's them.
Okay.
The right part doesn't hurt, but it's definitely not the biggest thing. We'll get into it in a little bit. We don't need to dive right in.
All right. Cool. I can't wait to get into it. Yeah. This is definitely going to be a shorter episode, because it's just that time of the season. Like, there's almost nothing happened in the past 7 days. You know, like, we can talk about the competitions if you want. We did get a new jury segment, which had some tidbits I think that might be worth, adding into our takes. But it's mostly just going to consist of these final three, which are Mackenzie, Chelsea, and Cam.
And Cam, the legend himself. He forgot to shout out all his dogs at the crib.
He did. You would never forget.
I would never. Do you think he
between you and
knew
him.
that that's a thing that people like before Julie said something? Like, I feel like Julie said something and he was like, "Oh, sure," but everybody else seemed like they were aware of that too. I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, I did have that thought too, because I'm like, oh, is Julie like exposing something? Not that that's like game-changing information,
No.
but like theoretically, that is something the other house guests are not aware of. So, but they did have the response like it was familiar with them. So I do wonder if that's like an inside joke he's also saying in the house. I don't know, but yeah, it was funny. I liked it.
That was one of the few times I was like, "Yeah, Julie, get it." Like, that was great. Good work.
One of the few moments like off script Julie is actually a delight.
Yep, exactly.
Usually
But hey,
doesn't work.
in case I forget later, shout out on my dogs at the crib.
I have a feeling you won't. That's just
And then in his goodbye message, he said that Rabina is his dog. So I think it's just like there's so many people that has dogs at the crib. There's not like one specific crib. It's just you're his dog in the crib. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and that was a question I think I had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like how
That's
like,
the only reason I mentioned it is because I know you asked. Yeah.
I'm fascinated, and if I ever get to ask him a question, that's gonna be like, are there a group of dogs here? Like, is this a specific group of people that are your dogs, or is this just a generic net that we're throwing over anyone who's an acquaintance of you? These
a
are the
fair
questions that
question.
need to be asked. Yeah.
It's
so,
honestly important. And if nobody asks him, that's just bad journalism.
yeah. Now that I think it's like his thing on a Julie level, I'm sure, like this has now, because this was, I think at first it was just like, oh, that's something he says every week. And I think like, internet people pick it up. But now that it's like, okay, this is actually his thing. I think like if BB Comics would have happened after this moment, his comic would have been related to this. So like,
Absolutely.
I think that association is so strong. I would be shocked that this isn't the first thing people ask him post Big Brother.
Oh, absolutely. Now it's been pointed out, and now everybody's realizing it. Yeah, he's never gonna hear the end of it now.
No. So to recap this week,
We spent the first 5 minutes just talking about cams and shout out.
We're like, this is
That's
gonna be
perfect.
such a short episode, and we're just
groundbreaking. Golly.
Chelsea won the HOH, which I think immediately threw out any spicy mix-up we could have had this week. I think we spent a decent amount of time last week analyzing, like, here are the options that she might not make it to the final three. And her winning, I think, like, when we get done recording, the HOH is usually announced, like, not long after we post our episode. And she won. I was like, well, there we go. There's a waste of an episode of analyzing.
Yep. And then if you had asked us to guess, I mean, Mackenzie winning the veto is like pretty obvious too.
Yeah, and honestly, I think under the circumstance, like like with Chelsea winning HOH, I think the option of Mackenzie winning veto is probably the least interesting of that one. Because even if
Mhm.
like Chelsea wins veto, there's even potentially something she could like do that's funky with it. But
Mhm.
Mackenzie winning is just so like cliche. So it's like, okay, even for the hope of a mix up, which again, like I'm not saying like we have to have a giant house flip this late in the game for it to end on a good note, but it's like to have a week long of like just so typical gameplay that we've seen, it was kind of like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the for the last week it was very, very boring, but that's just what we've come to know and love. So I'm excited that this next week is very shortened. It's just a couple days, which will be super nice.
Yes, I couldn't be more thrilled about that. So we will have a winner in 3 days. So we'll have to talk
Yeah.
if we're gonna record that night or when we're gonna record. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Are
we'll
you
do it
gonna
sometime.
watch the clip show tomorrow night on Friday?
I'm gonna skim through it and catch the beginning of the HOH competition.
I
Is
don't
my
even know if
plan.
I'm gonna watch that. If I'm honest, I'm just.
That's fair.
I
I
don't
respect
know.
that.
Like, it just
Are
feels
we
like there's.
bad fans?
I don't. I just think the things that we value in the show are not the things that the show likes to highlight. I think that's what
Hmm.
I've come to accept. I think I might have said
Yeah.
this on a previous season. I would love an experiment because we have so many hours of footage every single week. I would love a second version of the episodes every week where they're edited to show you different things. So like instead of
Hmm.
like, oh, we get a whole segment how this person stinks up the bathroom. Like we actually get just 100% gameplay, nothing else, you know?
Yeah.
And because I think like the clip show, like it's not gonna, it's just gonna be bits. It's gonna be like,
Hmm.
oh, remember this person? They kept saying this thing. Oh, that was goofy, and like that's the stuff I don't care about. But I do think there are a lot of fans that enjoyed that aspect of the show.
And I think they've honestly already been kind of doing that. Like the bit that they showed a couple episodes ago of the tortillas and like slapping each other in the face. I heard that happened a couple weeks ago, and it just happened to be Mackenzie and Rubina who did it, and so they were like, "Oh, we can just throw this in now and not
Yeah,
show anybody that it's around, so it doesn't look like there's more people."
right. Yeah, that happens occasionally, and I think they're just scratching to make it interesting at all.
Yeah.
Because again, there's very little gameplay that's happening that is. I mean the big thing this week was Mackenzie making the decision tonight to vote out Rubina instead of Cam.
Hmm.
I think initially, I think that was the correct move. What do you think? Do you think she could have done something different, or at this point, does it even matter?
I think that taking Rubina would have been the correct move for Mackenzie. I think it's probably riskier ultimately, but I think it gives her the best chance of winning the game.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, because I think Cam will, unless, so I don't really know what Cam is really thinking. Is he really planning on taking Mackenzie and like doing this big move of getting rid of Chelsea? If so, awesome. Then that's definitely the right move, I think. But I'm not convinced that that's the case. And so for Mackenzie, it feels like taking Rubina would have been the move, and then Rubina I think would have taken Mackenzie in that scenario. Now,
Hmm.
Cam and Rubina winning the final HOH, not super likely. Kind of a long shot in general. So I don't even know if we'll have to worry about it. It'll probably would be between Chelsea and Mackenzie, but that's what you're working with is that potential. I think I do think Cam is the most beatable. So if you're looking at it from that perspective of somebody that you want to beat, Cam is the one to bring. But
Yeah.
I don't know, the way that they edited it was that Chelsea kind of manipulated Mackenzie into bringing Cam, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not what she wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. I think part of the reason I think taking Rubina out was a good move was just the jury vote aspect of it,
Hmm.
where I think if anyone sits next to Cam, they're gonna win. So it would make sense to keep him to have the chance to face him in the final two. Now, let's say Mackenzie wins final HOH. I don't know if she'll take Cam. Like, something tells me she might just be dumb enough to take Chelsea, and probably will. But I don't know. I think like keeping Rubina in, yeah, I think it could get her to the final HOH, or not the final two. But I think Rubina would have had some votes there. I really do. At least like locked in votes from, Tico or Chemo.
Thanks for filling in a little bit more because I tried to cough real quick. Though I appreciate that. I notice you do that. I always appreciate it when you see me like go mute. Anyways,
Just trying to
I am
make
getting
consistent radio,
Rubina, yeah, she has these locked in votes, but I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that everyone would just ignore the game. Like, I think it's those two, and yes, you have to get two more, but it would floor me if she somehow lost those votes to Mackenzie or Chelsea, unless there's just an awful like final pitch or response to questions or something like that. I'm honestly, after the jury segment, I'm getting a little nervous that they're a little too high on Mackenzie and they would potentially vote Mackenzie over Chelsea. That would upset me, I think, a lot.
Well, I think this is an interesting conversation because I think like we are especially down on Mackenzie because we feel like it's clear she was manipulated by Chelsea, right? So any move that Mackenzie did was actually Chelsea in her ear. Especially the Leah vote. I think a lot of fans are pointing to that as like the moment where it's like that was a bad move. But like if she ends up winning the game, is that even something we can point to as a bad move? Like I don't know. It's so this is the fascinating part because I think like if the jury doesn't see it as a mistake, I don't know. It's going to be like really fascinating.
That's the part that makes me nervous. Is I don't know that they will see the things that Chelsea did to manipulate or influence, is maybe even a better word, Mackenzie to do the things that were better for Chelsea's game. Yes, Mackenzie still gets to the end, but that doesn't mean that every step that she made was the best move for herself or was like the like most I don't know, correct. I want to say correct move because that doesn't make sense. Correct move isn't the right word, but just like the most advantageous at that point. Because I think it's objective. Like keeping Leah would have been better for her. Maybe if she had kept Leah, it would have ended worse for her. There's no way that we can really tell that at this point. But yeah, it's hard because yes, she's probably still going to get to the end regardless, but that still was a misstep. And you want to have as clean of a game as you can, especially when you're comparing two people. That's definitely still in the mistake column because they both made it. And I feel like, yeah, that's still a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's just going to be, I think, an interesting conversation to have. And I don't know if we've really had one to this extent, because I think like the week where she was making some of these moves, I think the whole internet was just like, oh my gosh, is this the worst HOH we've ever seen? And so to have the jury reward that, I do wonder, like, is there something to be said about her having that mistake and still being able to not let the jury realize it's a mistake? Or is it just an extra sloppy win because she wins not even realizing it was a mistake, not even realizing that the jury doesn't see it's a mistake? You know what I mean? So then, like, everyone ends the season and nobody is aware that that was incorrect. But then at that point, who is the one that can label it as incorrect? You know what I mean? Like, I think like we are saying it's objectively an incorrect move, but then how can we say it's objectively that if she does win? And I think I don't know. I seeing Jack tonight, I always struggle with his win too because like he made so many bad moves, just so many poor decisions, yet somehow still won the game. And so then it's like, what game are we even playing? I think, like, do moves even matter at all? Or is it just like, which I know it's just getting to the end and winning jury votes. I'm using my own logic against me here, but I don't know. I think Mackenzie's going to be a very fascinating winner and one that is going to put all of our brains in a scramble.
Yeah, and I want to say, I think moves have mattered less since they shifted the jury roundtable and how that works. I think when players were able to sit down and explain step by step the moves that they made, then having all of these specific moves, in that situation, I feel like that move would have been labeled and discussed, and Chelsea would have been like, hey, you did what was best for my game, not what was best for your game, because she was definitely on your side. And the jury sees that and they're like, wow, that's great gameplay. But in this scenario, it's entirely up to Chelsea to communicate that was what
Right.
happened there. And Mackenzie will probably fight back a little bit, but then the jury there has to be someone there that is like, yes, that's what happened. Chelsea did that. Like, you have to
Mhm.
almost have that advocate on the jury. And I'm not sure that she does, because a lot of what Chelsea has done has been behind the scenes and not like the most explicit stuff that you've ever seen. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, you
yeah, like
almost
even
need
this week,
like
she I feel like she influenced this week a ton and making
yeah.
sure that Cam stayed. No one's gonna agree with like she was the one that like influenced that decision the most, because none of them were there to see.
Well, I think the only person that could really step in here is Leah. You know, like if Leah
Mm-hmm.
can come in and confirm, like, no, I was never going for you. I would have never went for you. You would have been
Yeah.
my, number. I don't know if she was her number one, but maybe her number two behind Ann. It's hard. But like, I think if Leah can like drive that into the jury, which maybe she has, but it doesn't feel like she has from the segment we saw. So I don't know. Like, you do need those people that recognize it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just Chelsea's word against Mackenzie's word. So I think, yeah, in order for Mackenzie to get exposed, it does have to be Chelsea bringing it up, and then Leah almost confirming oh no, that does make sense that Chelsea got in your ear because I wasn't going for you, and that move you
Mm-hmm.
did, I don't know how that helped you. I can't vote for you because I think that was a bad move on your part.
Yeah, and we've seen a few years ago in Survivor that even the jury themselves can be from what we see on the TV, they can be unreliable. There we go, unreliable sources. So it
Yeah.
completely depends on that. Either way, if Mackenzie wins over Chelsea, I'm probably going to be upset, but I think she's still a deserving winner. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's not somebody where
Yeah.
I feel like they completely didn't earn it. That would never get my vote. It's just I would have voted for Chelsea. Like, I would have to settle for that, even if it would make me a little upset.
Yeah, and I think there's still potential where it's like, let's say Mackenzie gets to the final three. Well, she's no, sorry. Let's say she wins the final three, cuts Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turns
Yep.
into a narrative of like, hey, yes, this person might have used me, but guess what? I went along with their stuff, and now I cut her. Like, that's a great game. I don't think that's what she's doing, but
That's season 17 all over again. Yes, I don't think that's what she's doing, but that's what happened in season 17 for sure.
right, yes, exactly. So like, I don't know. Like, playing someone else's game isn't inherently a bad thing. I think the thing with Mackenzie is that awareness just isn't there of whose game she's playing, and she does
Mm-hmm.
believe these moves to be her own. And I think Chelsea just has the upper hand where she knows what is actually happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a season of Australian Survivor where there was a girl who the entire season everybody was like, "Oh, she's a goat." Everybody's just kind of dragging her along, and at the very end, she like dropped a bomb on everybody. She's like, "I wasn't an idiot during this game. Like, I knew that you guys wanted somebody to like use and to do your dirty work, and so I chose to do that and chose to do what you needed because I knew it would get me here." And like, it's a wild final tribal council to watch, but you can like play that role of like, yes, it may look like I was being used, but it wasn't me being used and manipulated to do it. It was me choosing to do that because I knew that was my only
Yes.
route to get here.
Yep.
And so it's all about the story. It's all about how you can frame it.
Yeah, and I've said that before, especially like with Survivor, but I think it applies to Big Brother too. I think the jury is really looking for you to explain your game, and they want to know that the things you did were at least intentional. You can agree or
Mm-hmm.
disagree if they were good moves, but it's like, what was your motive behind this move? Did you have motive?
Mm-hmm.
And does it match our perception of what we think you did? So you can't get in front of the jury and said, I did this, 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 this. And then for them to be like, well, no, I don't think that's true. Like, they need to agree with you, or they need to be like enlightened that, oh, I didn't realize but I see it now. So that's where it's like, I think anyone can get to the end, and if they can sell themselves, like, they have a winnable game. Even Cam. Like, I think Cam could have that same. If it does come out that he was throwing but knew he didn't have to win, if that is true and you can convince the jury that's true, that's a great game, right? That's huge. I just don't. Again, that's probably not going to happen.
If he like somehow wins this final HOH, cuts Chelsea, goes into that final like jury segment, and is like, I knew that with who I am and how I am like physically built, if I win competitions, I'm a problem. So I chose to win one veto, right? Was it one veto all season? Like I chose to throw competition after competition because I knew that I would get dragged along. I knew that I wouldn't be a threat. And now that it's my time to shine, I win the competition and get rid of the biggest threat. Like, how do you not at least consider voting for him at that point?
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think he'll have a ton of respect from the jury as a whole, but yeah, you can't like not consider it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Was there anything else from like the jury segment that you found interesting? I think the biggest thing for me is I think Quinn definitely acknowledges Chelsea as kind of like the mastermind of the season, which I think is huge. I think since Quinn was the first juror, usually that first juror has a lot of sway on the rest because one by one they're coming in. So like Chemo coming in last place probably has the least amount of impact on these people that have been talking about the game for weeks now. So I don't know. I think that is a huge thing for Chelsea to have like his support here.
Yeah, but Quinn is also one of those people that I feel like there's a couple people who would want to not believe him and want to not listen to him. I'm interested what T-Core's response was finally getting to talk to Chemo and realizing that he's the one that voted to keep her, and wonder if that like affects her perspective, because she's been on Team Chelsea basically since she got voted out, and I wonder if her knowing that Chelsea ultimately voted T-Core out, if that's going to be an issue, because I think T-Core is a pretty solid vote for Chelsea otherwise.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that one. That's interesting. Thoughts on Leah and Quinn? Think they'll make it?
I don't care. I hope they love each other.
I don't think anything's happening. Leah's answer just sounded like such a non-answer. Like, I shouldn't have said this. This was a mistake. And then Quinn is just like I don't know, maybe let's see, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, this isn't gonna go well.
It was because even in the house, she was like, "Do I have a crush on him, or am I just like in here?" So that's messing with my mind.
Right.
So no matter what, it's gonna wait until after finale, and maybe they'll hang out and see if there's anything there. But he's got to put on some weight if he's gonna be able to win her over.
That's true. That's very true. Because I can tell you right now, I'm sure her DMs are full of chubbies just lining up.
Absolutely.
I'm like, wait a minute, this pretty girl's into me. All right. What's up?
Are there
What's
more
up?
like you? Like just really creepy questions?
Is there a subreddit I can join?
Ugh. I don't want to know.
What else about this episode? Should we just, I don't know, speculate this final three as best we can?
Yeah, I mean,
you want to go through jury votes?
No.
I
just don't think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Well, okay. Here's something to note. This was Chelsea's fourth HOH, which tied her for the record, according to Julie Chen. I didn't fact check that. I'm just trusting Julie for my information here. So if she wins,
said at one point that 3 women at the end has never happened. Not true, but whatever.
I did catch that too. Fake fan.
Which there was no one really in the house to correct her at that point, probably because like
I think
maybe Quinn could have.
Chelsea's the only person in that house left that like watches the show.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Mackenzie and Cam are like confirmed, just not never seen it.
Yeah. She said, I was like, not true. Actually, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of a nerd. Shut up, Tony.
But anyways, yes, if Chelsea wins this final HOH, I think it gives her the record with 5, which is huge.
Yep.
Huge. And I think she's got a good chance, right? I mean,
oh yeah, and whenever it's been like sitting in a booth answering questions, she has always been like one of the strongest players in those kinds of challenges. And so, and I guess the final part of the HOH is kind of a crapshoot. So as long as she qualifies for it, I think she has a good shot.
Yeah, and I would assume, because I think like typically the first part is usually endurance, correct? And so
Yeah.
I would assume that maybe Mackenzie gets that one initially, and then Chelsea probably beats Cam in the next part.
Mhm.
So that's my prediction. I think it's going to be a Chelsea Mackenzie, and I don't know. I think if Mackenzie wins that final, I think it's game over. I don't know how it isn't. But let's just for fun, if it is Cam, what do you think he's going to do, and what do you think his best bet to win would be?
If he wins that final HOH,
Yes, the
I
slim
think he's gotta
chance
cut
that he wins a
Chelsea.
competition.
I think he's got to cut Chelsea
Yeah,
and frame it kind of how I did earlier, where it's like I knew that I couldn't be this comp beast, so I chose not to win these and get pulled along because I knew that I was safe and I knew that I had bigger targets around me. I feel like that's his only route. Does he know that? No, I don't think so. Like I just
No.
don't know if he has the knowledge to be able to put together an argument that would move the needle at all. I think he's an
Yeah.
easy win against.
I completely agree. It's not just. I think it's not just evicting Chelsea. It's also like having the narrative of why you're evicting Chelsea, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, he might not have either part. But even if he
No.
has part one, step one,
Yeah. Do you think Mackenzie
Yeah.
or Chelsea, do you think they take each other or do you think they take Cam?
I think Mackenzie would take Chelsea. I don't think she should. And I think if Mackenzie takes Chelsea, I don't know. That's going to be an interesting vote. I think for Chelsea, I honestly don't know. I think she might cut Mackenzie. I think there's a chance.
Yeah. Yeah,
I-
I think her first
Yeah.
alliance is with Cam.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, she's promised Mackenzie for weeks now that it's those two to the end, but her first alliance is Cam, so you can always fall back on like Cam and I have been playing this game since day one together.
Yeah. And I just think Chelsea is smart enough to recognize the jury aspect,
Mhm.
knowing that if she gets Mackenzie out of here, I don't know how she loses the vote. Like,
Yeah.
who in there is going to pull for Cam at that point? Maybe Mackenzie out of bitterness? Maybe.
Mhm.
I don't even know at that. But, so I think that's what she should do. But honestly, I really don't know. It's hard to tell.
It is tough to tell because there are so many like close bonds here, and you like want them to do the best thing. Like if it's Mackenzie, a part of me wants her to take Cam because that's just like a crazy move. She's deserving. But then there's also the part of me that's like Chelsea to me has played the best game overall up to this point, so I want her. So it's always
Yeah.
so complicated at the end here, and there's no clear answer. Like in some seasons, it's like I know that this person is going to take this person. It's just obvious. But in here, you can't really tell even.
When do you think the last time we had an exciting Final Three? I think there's a couple seasons within the past like 6 or 7 years that like we've had a good Final Four, but like Final Three. Because I don't think it was. Actually, it might have been 24 with Taylor, Monty, and Tucker.
Turner.
Not Tucker, Turner. my
Turner.
mistake.
I thought I said it wrong when we didn't say the same thing. I was like, oh, I screwed that up. Dang it.
No. Tucker's this season. Like that was at least interesting. Where I think
Yeah.
Taylor winning was a surprise to some people at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there were options. I think all three of them had a case at that point.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
The other one that comes to
What else?
mind initially was All Stars,
I was thinking All Stars.
because I think if
So it was
Nicole
Nicole,
gets to the end,
Enzo.
like a Nicole
Mhm.
versus Cody would have been pretty exciting. Like Cody definitely needed to cut her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Enzo, if he just had any ability to defend his like game at all, he might have had a
It got
shot.
bad really fast, but going into that
Yeah.
finale was something.
Exactly. Exactly. It was a doozy for sure.
But yeah, it's a rare scenario where I think like you even have two options. I think most of the time we get here, I think like last year, actually last year we were kind of like Matt or Jag, but then it quickly again went away.
Who was the third one?
Bowie Jane, come on, put some respect on the Mafia.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. Golly, I forgot she existed. Jeez.
She randomly comes up on my TikTok a lot. Like, she is one of those that's always
Really?
going live. And
Oh,
well, Jag does too. Jag is just constantly. I think that's the only way he makes money is off of TikTok gifts. But yeah, Bowie Jane's always live on TikTok, and I'm like, I don't know how to get off this. I don't need this.
unsubscribe, please. No.
I don't know. Any other predictions or things you need to talk about before the finale? Is that it? We covered it
Tucker's
all.
gonna win America's favorite house guest.
I hope so. Are you gonna vote?
Probably not. Actually, now that I think about it, probably not.
I don't know if I ever really vote.
No, I just kind of let them do their thing.
And then I complain about the winner. So what does that say
Yep.
about me?
You're a normal American. Then we also have what's his name, Derek, coming and talking to the final three for some reason, and we found out who's hosting
Yes.
the round table.
We did. Was it
And it's
confirmed?
Unfortunate. Well, yeah, I think Julie said
Oh, I must have
Taylor's
missed it. I
coming
saw
to
it
lead the round table.
I saw it online. I didn't. I must have missed Julie.
Julie said so, I think.
Okay, you're probably right. I just tune out Julie a lot of times.
That's fair. Well, they showed her picture and everything. It bummed me out. I thought Derek was maybe gonna be the round table host.
It bummed you out?
I think
she's a much better fit than Derek.
no, I don't know. I think Taylor thinks that she knows the game so well, and I wouldn't consider her like an expert at Big Brother. And she acts like she is like the most knowledgeable of all time, and it's just like I just don't see it.
Well, we're always going to disagree because I know our winner rankings and we have her placed much.
No, I'll come
differently.
around on her. I've done some research and looked into like okay, let me be open minded here, and I'm definitely closer to you than I am to people that hate her. I think, but I still don't think that she's. I don't know. I don't think that she knows what she's talking about all the time.
I think. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But then, like, what winner does? Because to me, that's when I hear like Derek talk about Big Brother. That's the same impression I have. I think when winners talk, and that's how I mean, I especially felt that about Jack tonight, where I'm like, why is this guy giving any advice about the game of Big Brother? But I think it's because I think winners usually have like a very skewed perspective because that's how they won the game. And so that's the thing that they focus on. But I will say for Taylor, I think I'm excited because I think she's probably the best like host of a segment like that, as opposed to other people. I mean, like Derek would have been a fine host. I just sick of Derek personally, but I don't know. Like when you think of like other winners, I think like it's a two-part, and I think I'm curious to see how she does asking the jury some more like I don't know, specific questions about not because I don't like you don't need someone that like gives a lot of advice on the game at that point. I think it's just more like can she inquire questions that elicit like some sort of response that makes for good TV.
I think it's partially. I wouldn't say that she's somebody who represents my like favorite kind of like the strategic kind of cutthroat gameplay. I don't think she really plays that as much. And
yeah, she's no Dr. Will, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so I feel like he always tried to like, whether intentionally or unintentionally, like make them consider like, hey, yeah, they lied to you and you're a little bitter, but isn't that good gameplay? Like he would push back on some of like the bitterness and stuff like that. Whereas I think Taylor is so socially minded when it comes to the game that she won't do that as much. And I could be completely wrong. This is just my expectation of what it'll look like in a couple days.
Oh hey, if it was Derek, he would have been like, so what did this person do to stay in a 8-person alliance and just coast their way to the end and manipulate,
Hey, it worked.
Boring. It worked, but it would have been boring.
I feel like you're unfairly sick of Derek. That's my take.
He ruined modern Big Brother. I will stand by
Did you do that intentionally?
No, but that's why we need less of him because we need to stop propping up his gameplay as the ideal way to play the game. And here comes Taylor saying like, hey, you don't have to win the game like that. And I'm like, thank you. And then Jag comes and says, hey, you don't have to win the game like that. And I said, no, thank you. So what does that say about me?
You're inconsistent. All
Yep.
right, let's get out of here before you make me mad.
All right, for more episodes, notgameallpersonal.com. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere listen to podcasts, really. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube at NGAPpod. At NGAPpod. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. We'll see you on finale night.
Shout out all my dogs at the crib.